Welcome, I'm Waris Mohammed and you're watching our English news program on Somaliland National Television. And now for the headlines. Somalia's UN Ambassador Nicholas K arrives in Somaliland. Recent achievements of the Good Governance and Anti-Corruption Committee. Israel destroys homes of Palestinians suspected of murdering Israeli teens. Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs Mawlid Mohammed welcomed the UN Ambassador in Somalia, Nicholas K, at Igal International Airport in the capital. Somaliland's Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs, after welcoming the UN Ambassador in Somalia to Somaliland, elaborated further on the purpose of his trip to Somaliland. The Vice Minister pointed out that Somaliland has been working closely with the UN's ANSOM Humanitarian Office in order to implement ways of strengthening Somaliland's humanitarian office. Explaining that given more attention to developing the humanitarian office in Somaliland, the Vice Minister said that many issues of concern were discussed between the two offices and that more agreements will be reached during the UN Ambassador's short stay in Somaliland. Nicholas K, speaking to our media, stated,
"It's a great pleasure to be back again in Somaliland. I've arrived safely this morning from Garowe, and I will be staying at least a day in Hargeisa, and I look forward to meeting His Excellency President Silanyo and also many of the ministers in the government. I'm the head of the UN family, as the Vice Minister said, so it's also a chance for me to meet and see the work that the whole UN family is doing in Somaliland to support the people of Somaliland for better peace, stability and prosperity."
Vice Chairman of the Commission of Good Governance and Anti-Corruption, Hussein Abdullahi Chama, held a press conference at his office to brief the media about achievements made by the committee during the current administration's time in office. The Vice Chairman stated that the Commission has in the past 4 years achieved a number of planned goals that took part in the developmental process of the country, and that many were done with the collaboration of Somaliland's government. Hussein Abdullahi Chama spoke about the role the Commission played in raising the people's awareness on working closely with the government in what's in the country's best interest, and he elaborated on the significance of collaboration between the government and its people. Speaking of the necessity of cooperation between the government and citizens in fighting corruption, Vice Chairman of the Commission of Good Governance and Anti-Corruption, Hussein Abdullahi Chama, stated that among the Commission's primary duties is to urge people to follow the country's regulations and rules and to keep a close eye on any violations regarding these rules. A ceremonial event was held in Alafwein district in Sanag region to commemorate the appointment of Sultan Saleban Awil Diriye as one of that region's cultural leaders. The event had in attendance officials of that region, cultural leaders, governmental officials, parliamentarians, and other keynote guests. Some of the prominent cultural leaders of that region spoke at the event and expressed their joyfulness that Sultan Saleban became one of Sanag region's cultural leaders and stated that they chose him because of the strong traits he has as a leader. They also stated that they all welcome him and pledged to work closely with him on his future plans to improve the relationships between the cultural leaders in that region. Spokesman of Somaliland's cultural leaders pointed out on the traits of the newly appointed cultural leader and stated that he possesses whatever it needs to become a leader and expressed his joyfulness to his appointment. Mayors of the regions of El Afwein, Erigabo, Garadag, and others all congratulated the newly appointed cultural leader and pledged to collaborate with him whenever necessary to better progress the nation and spread more peace among the residents of that region. In conclusion, Governor of Sanag region Mahmoud Saleban Rabah, alongside other governmental officials, expressed their support to the appointment of Sultan Saleban Awil and urged him to keep his main focus on achieving a stronger union in an ever peaceful community and pledged to cooperate with him whenever necessary. You're still watching our English news program on Somaliland National Television, and now for the international headlines. With the end of 5-day ceasefire looming, Israeli troops in the occupied West Bank have demolished the homes of 2 Palestinians suspected of abducting and killing 3 Israeli teenagers in June. Troops set charges to destroy the homes of Hussam Qawasim and Amr Abu Aisha, while property of a 3rd Palestinian suspect, Marwan Qawasim, was sealed off, according to the Israel Defense Forces. Hussam was arrested on July 11, but the other 2 suspected are set to remain at large. Extensive Israeli raids in the West Bank and a month of intense fighting between Israeli forces and Hamas in the Gaza Strip followed the murders of the teens. Over 2,000 civilians and military personnel have been killed in the 5 weeks of hostilities, the majority of them Palestinians. A fragile 5-day ceasefire is scheduled to end at midnight on Monday. On the morning of the deadline, Israeli tanks could be seen approaching the border of Gaza. Talks in Berlin aimed at finding a political solution to the conflict in Ukraine have broken up without any substantial result, according to Germany's foreign minister. Frank Walter described the discussion with his counterparts from Russia, Ukraine and France as difficult, but said progress had been made on some issues. Our aim remains to do all we possibly can to bring about a ceasefire in Ukraine and to avoid further casualties in the future as far as possible. Meanwhile, on the ground in Ukraine, fighting has continued in Donetsk, the eastern rebel-held city now surrounded by government forces. It's not clear what caused explosions that were clearly visible on the city's skyline, but local authorities said at least 10 civilians were killed as clashes continued throughout Sunday. Reports say Ukrainian troops have raised their national flag over Luhansk in what could be a breakthrough in government forces' attempts to crush pro-Russian separatists. It's unclear whether the column of armored vehicles had crossed from Russia. A Russian humanitarian convoy is still stuck at the border. That's the end of our news. Thank you for watching. You can catch us tomorrow at the same time.